Hi, I'm Tom Winters. Have you ever noticed the flags placed next to some of the gravestones in our cemetery? These flags and the metal markers that hold them identify a veteran. A veteran is a man or a woman who has served in the military, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, or even the new Space Force. Each veteran buried in our cemetery has worked to protect our country, and we honor their service with a marker and a flag. On Memorial Day, which used to be called Decoration Day, we remember and pay our respect to the men and women who died while serving their country in the armed forces. Here is a marker for a man who served during the Revolutionary War. These gravestones are among the oldest in our cemetery. People buried here may have served with George Washington at Valley Forge, or even in battles for our freedom. Can you see what's on the marker? Yes, it's a man in a uniform with a long coat and wearing a three-cornered hat. He also carries a musket, the gun used to fight the British. This marker has a picture on it too. What does it look like? Right, an Indian chief. American settlers fought many Indian wars. Sometimes Native Americans joined with the British, and sometimes they fought back because Europeans took their land. Here's another marker. What date is stamped on it? From 1812 to 1814, America fought another war with the British called the War of 1812. The Royal Navy had been stopping and seizing American ships on the open sea for years, and after several land and sea battles, a treaty was finally signed. Can you read what's on this marker? GAR stands for Grand Army of the Republic. This is another name for the Union Army, which fought in the Civil War between 1861 and 1865. Sometimes this conflict is called the War Between the States, when American family members could be on different sides and had different views on slavery. If you've been to Gettysburg, you would have visited a famous Civil War battlefield and cemetery where many of the soldiers who fought and died there are buried. During the first half of the 20th century, there were two world wars, called that because so many countries were involved in the fighting. Here's a marker from the first of these wars. What do you see on it? That's right, it's for World War I, sometimes called the Great War, when Americans in the Army, Navy, and Marines served in Europe for about 18 months in 1917 and 1918. The United States and other countries were at war with Germany, Austria, and a few of their neighbors. Here is Mr. Corey's gravestone. He served in the Marine Corps during the First World War. Here's another one with an eagle, a symbol of our country. The dates are 1941 to 1945, when we fought in World War II against Germany, Japan, and Italy. There are many graves of veterans of World War II, including Mr. Deemer, Mr. Carl, and my uncle, James Winters, who was a colonel in the Army Air Force. A longtime member of our church, Mr. James Weidman, was Mrs. Brown's and Mrs. Ryder's father. He was a commander in the Navy during World War II and flew airships called blimps, searching for enemy submarines off the coast of New Jersey. His tombstone has the image of a blimp on it. Some of our veterans of World War II, as in other wars, could have more than one marker by their gravestones. What do you see on this one? Actually, the problems between North and South Korea still exist, and we still have members of the armed forces over there helping to keep the peace. Here's another marker for the same war. What do you see? From 1950 to 1953, American men and women were actively fighting in the Asian country Korea. When a truce was declared, most of them came home, but the marker indicates 1955 as the last year of Korean service. The symbols represent the members of the Army, Navy, Marines, and Air Force who were fighting in Korea. Sometimes people do not fight but serve during a war in other ways. Many of them, like my grandmother and other women, might send packages or letters to soldiers. They might be nurses who take care of the wounded, or wives who celebrate with them when they come home. A few of the markers in our cemetery honor these women. Some indicate Ladies Auxiliary and VFW. This would honor a woman whose husband or other relative was a member of the veterans of foreign wars, like the World Wars, the Korean conflict, or the Vietnam War. There are a few markers that say Daughters of the American Revolution, a service organization for women who can trace their ancestry all the way back to a veteran or other patriot during the Revolutionary period. Certainly there are flags and markers for more recent wars, but no veteran in our cemetery has one beside their tombstone. We hope that there will be an extended peace, so that your lives and those of others will not be marked by war in the future. We hope you remember these flags, markers, and the history that they represent as you celebrate Memorial Day. Remember, they honor those who have served in uniform during wartime. Thanks for listening. Look for the flags and markers the next time you walk through our cemetery.